Greetings, YouTube. The doctor is in. Dr. Urias Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons and Dragons. And today on the Doctor Spell Prognosis, we are talking about the spell Druid Grove. We're giving this a B. But first, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you have any questions or comments, please leave a question or comment. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you know when I have another video coming out. All right. I like this spell. It's not a combat spell, given that it is a casting time of 10 minutes, but it is a near combat spell. And what do we mean by near combat? This can be a spell you can cast if you know you're going to be in a combat and you have the 10 minutes to cast it. It is extremely party friendly, and it is extremely enemy unfriendly. So let's go through it. 6th level spell. It's really long, so it is a 6th level spell that is usable by druids. But a bard could pick it up at, I believe, 14th level with magical secrets. Takes 10 minutes to cast it. It has a range of touch, verbal, somatic, and material component. The material component down here says mistletoe, which is consumed, that was harvested with a golden sickle under the light of a full moon. But it doesn't give a value to anything, and so that is a worthless material component that we do not have to worry about. All right. It lasts for 24 hours. Yes. So you invoke the spirits of nature to protect an area outdoors. It's an area that is 30-foot cube or as large as a 90-foot cube. That's a cube that's 30 foot on one side, or a cube that is 90 feet on one side. So any dimension in between those. Buildings and other structures are excluded from the affected area. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't, I guess, cast it, but if you got a house in the middle of the grove doesn't go inside the house. It doesn't affect it. They are excluded from it. To exclude means to not include. So if you cast the spell in the same area every day for a year, the spell lasts until dispelled. There are all kinds of role-playing ideas for DMs, story ideas or adventure ideas for DMs that come for that. And again, for players, if you've got a long-term campaign and your players want to build a castle or a wizard's keep or a wizard's tower or the Lord's castle, or the druid wants to make a grove, this is the way to do it right here. This is how it can happen. The spell creates the following effects within the area. So one other thing I do want to say about that sentence is the wish spell can be used to cast this. And I would rule, under some of the wishy-washy language that's in a wish, that you could wish a druid grove, a permanent druid grove, into existence. And I think that just would be a cool idea for a dungeon master as part of a adventure that a big bad, maybe an evil druid has put forth. Okay. Spell creates the following effects. When you cast a spell, you can specify creatures as friends who are immune to the effects. You can also specify a password that, when spoken, makes the speaker immune to all these effects. Great. That's the party-friendly part of this. We love it. The entire warded area radiates magic, and it can be taken away with the Dispel Magic, but the Dispel Magic only removes one of the effects at a time, not the entire area. But when all the effects are gone, then the spell ends. Okay, so the spell's caster chooses which effects to end as well. Only when all... Okay, we said that already. So here are the things that are in the Druid's Grove. You can fill any number of 5-foot squares in the ground with thick fog, making them heavily obscured, and the fog reaches 10 feet high. In addition, every foot of movement through the fog costs 2 extra feet. To a creature immune to this effect, the fog obscures nothing and looks like soft mist with motes of green light floating in the air. So that's not difficult terrain. That is 2 extra feet of movement. You can fill any number of 5-foot squares on the ground that aren't filled with fog, with grasping weeds and vines, as if they were affected by the entangle spell, which is difficult terrain. Now, these do not stack. These two do not stack. But this one is as if it were affected by an entangle, where it is not an entangle. So if you were to put the fog down and then cast plant growth on top of the Druid Grove, which is going to affect everything, unfortunately, but the plant growth is going to stack on top of that solid fog, meaning that every foot of movement is going to cost 6 feet of movement, because plant growth adds 4 feet to the movement. And if you can cast entangle inside of that, then that becomes difficult terrain, and that means every foot of movement is 7 feet of movement. So, and then, of course, to a creature that's immune to the grasping undergrowth, the weeds and vines feel soft and shape themselves to serve as temporary seats or beds. And then you get Grove Guardians, so you can animate up to 4 trees in the area, causing them to uproot, and they get the statistics of an awakened tree, which are not bad for this spell because you get all this stuff, 59 hit points. They have a slam attack that does roughly 14 points of damage, plus 6 to hit. I mean, it's okay. There's some hit point bags that can do a little bit of damage that are in the spell. That's basically it. But they're all part of the spell. They're there, and they are not affected by the spell themselves. So they can't speak. Their bark is covered with druidic symbols. If any creature not immune to this effect enters the area, they fight them. The Grove Guardians obey your commands that issue. If you don't give them commands and no intruders are present, then they just stand there. They can't leave the warded area, and when the spell ends, the magic animating them disappears and they root again. You can place your choice of one of the following magical effects within the warded area. A constant gust of wind in 2 locations of your choice. So 60 feet long, 10 feet wide. Obviously, you would not put this where the solid fog is because it would probably blow it away. I like spike growth. The ground in a 20-foot radius centered on a point, so that's 40 feet wide. Now, that's not going to be this whole 90-foot area. It's about half of it, but you could slap it right in the middle of it, and it would take most of the cube up. I like the spike growth. And, of course, the spike growth would be harmless to things, because it says right here, that are immune to it, or wind wall in 2 different locations, which if you're setting up some kind of defense or defensive position, then wind wall might actually work. If you're using this as a near combat spell where you know you're going to be in combat, you could, plunk her down in the middle of all this stuff. You could have the spike growth going. You could have the awakened trees, the entangle, the solid fog, all that. I mean, the fog could be on the very outside, and the grasping undergrowth could be right past the fog, along with the spike growth, which is, just nasty. And then you've got yourself and your group in the middle who can then just start taking things out once they come through this heavily obscured fog, which folks on the outside, enemies on the outside, are not going to be able to really see in unless they have some kind of tremor sense or something like that. So, all right, that is what I have for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch everybody later.